Picture this, right? You have this highly popular animated adaptation of a manga. It's widely successful and is a very profitable IP. Cool, things are wonderful. Then it gets picked up by a Hollywood studio years later and they decide to make it live action. Now there's usually some responses to this. 1. Why the fuck? 2. How the hell are they gonna do this? And 3. Is it going to be worse than Netflix's Death Note or Dragon Ball Evolution? A lot of doom and gloom surrounds this kind of news, and it makes sense why. Unfortunately for some, these live-action adaptations are people's first introductions to this work, so they're gonna go off what they see. And what they see is, well...
You never know true power until you've tasted the testicles of a man who's wronged you.
With many adaptations, there are of course going to be interpretations taken by the people working on the project. When it comes to anime, the reason for why it works is because it's animated. So you would think that execs would understand that that's the whole gimmick, but they don't, because they still see dollar signs at the IP and think they can maximize on profit if they try out an adaptation for it. There's never a fundamental understanding of what it is they're working with. They try to frame it as something for newcomers and fans of whatever series they're adapting can both enjoy, but that's never the case. They'll try to capture the same essence that an animated work will have, and it doesn't pan out because it's not meant to. They're not adapting these works with a sense of, let's do what we can do to make it stand out as a live action work instead of an animated one. You have a separate medium to work with, so you should adapt to how that is ran versus how an anime will work. For example, Netflix took a swing at Cowboy Bebop. And the swing they took, cause that shit was hot ass. Now what hasn't been said about this show as a whole? From the cheap looking Party City costumes, overly annoying characters that are originally likable, the dialogue, hey yo! A hot mess. But here's something funny about that. They released a trailer with Edgar Wright levels of editing, and this was cool. And even though it's cool, it's not Bebop. Had they went with this angle for, say, Radical Edward, and solely for that character alone, that would have been interesting. Bebop, realistically, out of a lot of anime, should have worked, but Radical Edward was the only outlier for this. This character is the definition of an animated character, so if you had a style similar to this for Ed alone, it could have worked out. It would have served as whiplash coming from a super serious scene, and Ed breaks up the tension, but that is a way in for that to have come across naturally. This is also not me saying that you should necessarily have a die-hard fan working on an adaptation, because while they are more invested and have an understanding of the series, they might not know how to translate that into a serial or episodic show or film format. Essentially what I'm saying is have someone that has an objective understanding of why this thing works, what made it successful in the first place, and how they're able to make their own adaptation stand alone. Not side by side, because that's ridiculous, but to stand alone as its own thing while still being respectful to the source material. Usually a take that floats around is, just have Japan make live action adaptations. After all, it's their own work. You see, on paper, this is very big brain. A foolproof plan even. But then you get to the adaptations and they look like this. Yeah, they're not any better at making these either. But at least there's so much jank in them that they're entertaining. Now there are several adaptations that work out splendidly for anime, manga, light novels, and even webtoons. What works for these movies and or shows is that they take series that can be translated to screen without having to rely on anything crazy for it to work. These all have their own identities about them that make them stand alone as their own projects, but these great adaptations are so few and far between that we're sat with trash for years. I firmly believe we'll live in an age where live action anime can work. The MCU managed to work, and that's something that should have failed from the jump. Being a comic book adaptation and being some of the biggest films to exist in the world. I'm sure Shonen Jump would love to be able to have their own cinematic universe later on, and be able to celebrate all the titles they've been making for over 50 plus years. It all boils down to the series they want to adapt, who's writing them, the studios, etc, etc. Legit, any slice of life or sports anime can work. Slam Dunk can work, Hajime no Ippo could work. Yeah, I know we have Creed, you shut the fuck. Tell me a Black Lagoon movie directed by Tarantino wouldn't be heat. Well, except for the feet shit, because I know how he gets down, I'm not with all that. But consistently good adaptations remains to be seen. I'll be hopeful though. Speaking of adaptations, can any of these studios adapt Keijo? Because the streets need it.
I'ma eat it. Ah!